I have a very important economic prediction to make. For years and years, I've listened to warnings about a spike in interest rates causing a death blow to the American economy. And some people have heeded that warning, getting prepared. Others have listened but doubted the immediacy of the triggering event. And for investors, the triggering event is critical because you want to time the top. You want to sell at the top so that you don't hold your assets. You make the most money on the way up, but you don't hold the assets for the way down. And I think that I know what will trigger the interest rate spike. I think I've cracked the code. So yesterday, Trump gave a fantastic speech about his tax cut plan where he was stern with Congress about lowering taxes on American businesses. In that speech, he mentioned that Q2 GDP came out at 3% growth, which is a huge business growth signal for all American businesses. If Trump gets his tax cuts through, that's going to be even more growth on top of that, and businesses are going to be looking to expand and start new projects. So what could possibly spike interest rates? How are those businesses going to fund those new projects? Well, they're all going to go out looking for business loans. And you're going to have a spike in demand for business loans, which will cause a spike in interest rates. As soon as the big tax cuts go through, every business in town is going to be looking for liquidity for those growth projects. So growth in tax cuts will spike interest rates. I was at Congressman Dave Brat's town hall the other day, and he's expressed a similar concern.
So the big deal is there's $4 trillion in the Fed bank reserves, right? So that's not money supply until it gets loaned out. So the real scary part is as soon as the economy picks up a little bit, and hopefully with Trump in, lower tax rates, then that $4 trillion in high-powered money becomes money supply. And then you're going to get a huge interest rate spike. Right. And that'll be very bad for business. So the Fed has done way too much stimuli, and we're running $600 billion deficits right now on the fiscal side, plus all that stimulus on the money side, on the Fed side, and we're only growing at 1 or 2%.
So how will that affect your ability to borrow in the future?
Oh, it kills us. I mean, if we get an interest rate huge, every 1% costs us tens to hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's on you. The next generation pays the bill.
I mean, we're already spending 13% of our federal income on servicing the debt. If interest rates double from like 1 to 2%, and that's a small percentage.
Right.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, no, normal is 3 or 4%.
You guys need to get by?
And if business activity goes up, it'll go higher than that. So no, I'm glad you're paying attention. Thanks for spreading the word. Hey, everybody out there, go to DaveBrat.com.
Yes!
Thanks to guys like this for spreading the word.
DaveBrat.com.
All right.
Check it out.
What will a spike in interest rates mean for businesses? Extremely expensive, high interest rate loans apply a downward pressure to growth because let's say you want to build a new project, either you have the cash on hand, which very few businesses do, or you have to borrow at that higher rate. So when Trump cuts taxes, instead of paying your profit, you're going to increase profits, but instead of those profits coming to you, you're going to have to pay them straight to the bank through a higher interest rate loan. Trump's economic growth will be stunted as the liquidity dries up, and it will all appear to come from those tax cuts. But the Fed has been reducing rates and causing this collapse for years. Plus, the government would love nothing more than to blame tax cuts for an economic collapse, because it would be a great excuse to just raise taxes and reverse the tax cuts. When liquidity dries up because all of the big money gets invested in these promising new growth projects that are going to return a high interest rate, that will spike interest rates because banks won't want to offer a 1% or 2% or 3%. They're investing in all these big new growth projects. So that will cause an economic collapse that will be felt all around the world. And the economic collapse warnings are already coming from big names like Ron Paul, Rand Paul, and they want to audit the Fed. They've been warning about the Fed for years. I mean, Peter Schiff, Greg Hunter, Greg Mannarino, these are all great economists that are constantly warning us about what the Fed is doing to our markets. They even explain that the Fed caused the housing crash of 2008 with their low interest rate policies, which ended up causing an interest rate spike. And they are all saying the Fed is doing the same things all over again. And they are right. You can look at the charts. The data shows and common sense confirms when you hold interest rates down, at some point they're going to spike up. A spike in interest rates could really damage our economy. But that's not what I'm here to prove. All I'm offering is my prediction of what will trigger the interest rate spikes. And this is just a prediction from an amateur investor, but it's simple supply and demand. So it's pretty straightforward, but let me know what you think. I really like corresponding with my audience. I get a lot out of it. Thank you all for watching, and peace, everybody.